Go for it, Sergio.
The show is about Canadian soldiers in combat in Afghanistan, and it takes place in 2006. Is that right? 8. Sorry, I'm reading a lot of Army stuff. I'm reading something about 2006 right now. So it takes place in 2008. And we're very much fighting in Afghanistan and in the midst of it, in the thick of it. And it's about 4 soldiers over there and what's going on in their lives as soldiers in Afghanistan, and on a larger aspect, what's going on with us over there and what we're doing over there and how the mission's going and how it affects soldiers and how it affects the people we're fighting and what it exactly means for Canada to be at war.
That's pretty perfect.
Well, she's nice.
I play Corporal Tanya Young, and she is a by-the-books driven soldier who, is too good at her job, and it actually messes with her when she was on her last tour, and she takes that with her into this tour.
I play Sergeant Medic Chris Anders, and he's in charge of the health of all the soldiers at the Forward Operating Base Mahone. And he has a whole bunch of beautifully complex issues. He thinks of himself as a Christian. He thinks of himself as he's gay, and he's also a soldier. So there's a whole bunch of worlds going on there that you would think are very difficult to put together. And it's kind of Chris Anders' job in life, but in this play to kind of ride that.
You always bring a little bit of every character you ever develop into the role you're working on now, because the characters we're playing look and sound exactly like us. so on one respect, you take a lot of stuff in, and sometimes it's easier when you've played in a world to have resources and information to go to. I mean, doing Combat Hospital, I had a ton of people I could connect with and just get information from about it from a completely different perspective, because when we'd worked together, I didn't need it from that perspective. And so now it's really cool to have done it once before, to kind of be a little familiar what it's like to be an Army chick. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What yourself, Sergio?
Yeah, I've been doing, we just finished Flashpoint for 5 years, and we played an elite police officer team based on the ETF, Emergency Task Force in Toronto. And we got to meet those guys too, and we learned a lot from them. And there's a lot of research we got to do, and people we got to meet with PTSD and stress injuries and stuff. And so I was aware of all that coming into this. And also there's that whole alpha energy of that land. There's that to police officers, definitely, and there's that to soldiers, definitely, as well. And it's a cool thing to tap into, especially for someone like that. It's not really my world in real life. So backstage, especially the guys' room, there's 3 guys and poor Lisa. But Lisa can handle herself fine. But from the guys' room, there's a lot of music blaring and push-ups, and screaming and punching, and all this stuff we saw in Restrepo and couldn't wait to do to each other.
Yeah, including dancing like girls.
That happens too, but nobody's supposed to know.
I didn't say anything.
All right, we need to.
We had a great director. I mean, Richard Rose is fantastic to work with, and he would use the words of, normal is not allowed, accepted, tolerated here. You are not, going to have a funeral over somebody who dies. You move on. You've got to continue with the mission. You've got to continue with the job. So having to sit ourselves in these positions. I mean, Hannah wrote such beautiful words that it's kind of like, you're just people, because it's not about having a political standpoint. It's not about having any one view. It's about being a person and making choices, and making choices with the information that you have at the time. And like we've talked about in rehearsals, it's all about making choices that you think you can live with, and then you have to live with them. And in the end, you get all the information that you didn't have, because obviously you can't be everywhere at once. And then you kind of go home with that, and you're just like, okay, well, how do I live with the choice now that I have all the information?
Right.
Yeah, there's a greenness of, like, that I was aware of before we started doing the play, about even what we think about war is here in Canada, and what we were even doing over there. And I don't think that's too far removed from what happens to soldiers when they go over there, because you train, and then you are in the situation that you trained for, but yet the country doesn't even know what it's doing there. The military doesn't even know what it's doing there until it's on the ground trying to, put that strategy to Panjway, which is totally different from somewhere else, which is totally different from the war games back home. And then stuff happens, and then it happens to these young, like one of the characters, like Johnny, like he's 20 years old, and he's kind of learning the hardest way.
Well, to be 20 years old
how
in
to
a
make war, right? Like, and it falls on the youngest people to actually have to fight it. This is a whole bunch of stuff I feel like we never really looked at while the war was going on. So I think it's a commendable job Hannah did to bring that to the surface and go, hey, by the way, we were at war. And
they're people. I think when developing the characters and the relationships, I think we did it the way we would do any other role that you're getting ready for. Is they're human beings, and they're three-dimensional, and they have, a heart, and they have a brain, and they have, a conscience that they're trying to work through. They have a way that they think, and when the words are put in front of you so beautifully, it's kind of easier to follow a mental pattern that this character is going through. And my character makes horrible decisions, and my character, doesn't think in the same way that, like, Lisa Berry thinks. Like, she has a very different thought process of how she's taking everything in, and how she's trying to deal with things, and her outlets that help her. So I think when you've got great text with a great director and phenomenal acting partners, like, you're kind of just having to force yourself to just breathe and listen, because this character is saying exactly what they need to say. This is how they communicate, and so you have to be true to who that person is, and not make them a shell of themselves or a caricature of somebody in the army, but rather a person.
Right. Very good.
Just look into his eyes, and he's there for me, so I'm good. That's really what I do. I just try and be with my scene partner, because if you really think about the situation, if you're really paying attention and present to what's happening, it's a tough place to be, right? So, I mean, for me, I know you clock it. I'm just like, I'm safe. I'm safe. I really do look to my scene partners to help me stay in the scene and be breathing and connecting.
I'm nodding because it's mutual. Like, those scenes that we get to do together, it's just, I'm backstage coming out to do them, and can't wait to come out, because I know it's going to be different every night. I know it's going to be a dance between the two of us, and I can trust her completely, no matter what's going to happen. Yeah. And to have that's a very specific, cool thing to happen sometimes. And you kind of don't want the play to ever end, to stop doing that. Because it's true. Like, I mean, we have hopefully long careers, and it's not always like that. Yeah. So when it happens, it's like, oh my gosh, it's happening now. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. And it's a great ride. And also, I got to say, like, Hannah has written this beautiful map for us with her words about where we go in every scene, and it's just it's almost, I almost want to say foolproof. But if you give into it the way she wants, the way Richard makes us give into it, it's going to be a good show. It's all there for us, right? One Piece.
Sounds like we're in a movie right now. It's like
It's
pause.
true. It's like the play. It's like the interviews. One piece of advice. It sounds basic, but I don't. Gosh, one is hard.
It's a beautiful question because I think we ask ourselves that question. No matter what stage you're at in your career, just like, well, where do I want to go now, and what do I want to do now, and so I think the advice would be to constantly, and this is going to be a constant changing answer. So if you ask me this in 5 years, it'll probably be different again. Is to allow yourself to be reinvented through the characters that you play, and allow yourself to shift and change and grow with every situation, because sometimes your career can take you in a place you didn't expect it to be. I was supposed to be a pop star, so what happened?
It's still going to happen, I think there's still...
But I allowed for shifts and bumps and, turns in the road to happen, and I'm very happy with where I am and what I get to do. But I think being open and being flexible with life in general will allow you to have the kind of career that you can look back at and be like, this is good. I like where I ended up.
Nice.
Really cool.
Nice. Give it everything. Give it everything you have. Don't hold back. We're only here for a really, really short time, and the career starts going by quick too. Like, it's like, wow, I'm here now. I thought I had more. So don't spend too much time worrying about what other people think, and listen to yourself and give what you have, because you have something to give. Because at the end, whenever it feels really good, it's that same feeling you had when you were 10 years old playing and it felt really good. It's the same freaking feeling, so listen to that feeling. You knew it all along.